This man may have the secret to solving world hunger. His revolutionary ideas are changing the world as we speak. He attracts thousands of students from around the world, and he has the skills and know-how to turn sandy deserts green. Geoff took that to that. He can bring life to barren plains.
By the will of Allah.
By the will of Allah. His name is Geoff Lawton, and this is his story.
He's taught me more than another person, and he's a big part of my reason for reverting to Islam as well.
Many people asked us, why are new Muslims eligible for Zakat? Well, when you help a new Muslim, you're not only helping them find their place in our great, beautiful ummah, but you're also helping them grow and flourish in ways you could never imagine, just like you're going to see in this video. So if you would like to help new Muslims here in Australia, pay your Zakat locally to National Zakat Foundation, NZF. Let's get back to the video. We're here in Zaytuna Farm, a 66-acre property in the northern rivers of New South Wales, Australia, in a village called the Shannon. At first glimpse, it looks like a wild forest, with densely populated trees, shrubs, and bushes all over the place.
A lot of people would look at this and not understand what's going on because it's quite complex.
But it's in fact strategically designed, deeply interconnected, and one of the most sustainable farms you'll ever come across.
There's fruit trees of all different types, and there are food plants in all sorts of layers. Avocado here, we have black sugarcane, we have mango, we have figs and pomegranates. There's an enormous amount of fruit.
How was this all achieved? Through an innovative idea known as permaculture. Permaculture was a word that was made up by this man, Bill Mollison, the direct teacher of Geoff Lawton. It's basically a methodology of managing land in the most sustainable and natural way. So forget everything you know about farms, tractors, and machinery. Permaculture looks towards nature as the ultimate teacher.
Nature's been sustainable for millions, billions of years, all on its own. Didn't need a tractor, didn't need fertilizer, soil stayed fertile.
So just for the record, Zaytuna Farm, there's no pesticides, no herbicides, nothing.
No synthetic fertilizer. We don't have to water, we don't have to fertilize, and we don't have to weed. Only thing we have to do is pick. It won't pick itself.
Geoff's been practicing it for over 40 years, intricately studying the way nature works to come up with better ways to design land. Whether it's through managing the flow of water or choosing the right plants to grow in the right location. We're surrounded by bamboo. Everywhere you look, you see bamboo.
There's a lot of different bamboo, but along here, this is allelopathy. This stops things growing underneath it. So right here, it's like a control mechanism on the edge of this system.
You get the point. The guy's an expert. Just to give you an idea of how powerful his knowledge is, this was Zaytuna Farm in 2002. Nothing more than a dry and dusty paddock. And this is what it looks like today. That's where it started.
And that's where it is.
And that's where it is. Geoff took that to that, turning the desert green.
Yeah.
It's become a flourishing ecosystem, home to a plethora of plants, wildlife, and frogs. Lots of frogs.
There's 15 varieties of rare frog, and there's 112 birds species.
112 birds.
I started off with 53 species of bird, now we're at 112. It's a medicinal tree that the Prophet used to use called senna, and the seed came from Medina.
Wow. A seed from Medina all the way to Zaytuna Farm in northern New South Wales. Geoff's work has been so impactful, he's attracted an entire community onto the farm to live here as well. Just like the owners of this tiny home here, who have a drinkable swimming pool. Yes, you can drink it.
Spirulina, there's a little bit of algae around, but that's
all right, but it's...
We'll do it together, right?
That's nice water.
Yeah, that's
fresh water from a swimming pool, a natural swimming pool that is completely running off the earth. His work has carried him across the world in over 50 countries, but by far his most ambitious project to date is this one right here, the Greening the Desert project in Jordan, where he was successfully able to convert a desert valley into a green oasis filled with fruit, vegetables, and even chameleons.
Which
Everywhere.
are rare Middle
Lots
Eastern
of
chameleons. We don't know where they came from.
It was a miracle transformation, but it was nothing like the transformation Geoff was about to experience in the same dusty desert.
I was at the end of 4 years designing, consulting and teaching in the Jordan Valley. And then we had 9/11, right? And then we invaded Afghanistan. It's like, what are we doing? And then we invaded Iraq, right? And George Bush is saying, you're either with us or against us.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists.
And I'm thinking, well, I'm not with you. I'm definitely not with you. That's for sure. Because I see all this stuff and it's just like, this doesn't make any sense. And I know these people. So I'm like, okay, I asked some brothers, they're brothers now, can you take me to a mosque? I just really want to understand a bit more about Islam. And that's where a journey started. They took me to the Haji school on Friday prayers, taught me the Shahada, asked me if that sits well okay with me. I said, yeah, it sits okay with me. Can you learn it? So I learnt the Shahada and they took me to Friday prayers. The head imam walked straight up to us, in amongst everybody, and said to my friends, who's this? Oh no. And he said, his name's Geoff. He just, what's his name? He said, Geoff. And he just laughed. And he said, nah, his name's Jamal Adin. Which I know the translation of now, right? So, and I'm like, okay. Everything seemed pretty cool. Almost seemed quite alternative in some ways. It was very peaceful. It was very easygoing. It wasn't rigid as I thought. It was quite hippie actually. Peace be with you, salam alaikum, don't have an ego and show off your body.
You could say Islam was perfectly natural for him. Speaking of which, it was only natural that this was going to happen too. Geoff met Nadia, a Palestinian woman from Jordan.
When I came and I told my mom, look, you remember that blue eyes guy, Geoff, the one teach permaculture? She said, yes. I said, wow, he's interested on me and he wants to marry. And then I'm just really like, oh, Mom, what to do? He said, leave it with me. And she went to my dad and she said, look, one lady here in the village, a guy, he became a Muslim and he interested to marry her, but her dad refused. And he said, why? He said, like, he's a Ahmad, like she basically. So he should, like he's become a Muslim, he will have a big ajr and all that stuff. Like, my mom smiled and she said, actually, this is your daughter. And he said, oh, okay, I better ask a judge about it.
I had to go to get a certificate to be a Muslim. I have a certificate of the Muslim faith. So I had to recite Fatiha in front of a crown judge in the capital city of Amman.
And since then we together and we traveled. The first trip we went to Iraq and that actually our honeymoon.
So it was a war zone
It's a
honeymoon.
start a war zone.
But you'd never been on a plane before. So it was really romantic, right?
Absolutely.
Today, Geoff and Nadia manage Zaytuna Farm, which, by the way, also runs a research institute, attracting thousands of students every year from across the world and all walks of life. All the while, keeping everything halal.
I'm halal like that chicken from the butcher.
He's produced students like this young chap right here, Parker Davies, a young conservationist from the Blue Mountains in New South Wales.
I've learned more from Geoff than I've learned from any other person. He's been my greatest teacher and one of my best mentor. He's taught me more than another person, and he's a big part of my reason for reverting to Islam as well.
MashaAllah.
I found Islam through permaculture.
Wow.
So actually in high school I studied Islam. We studied Islam through the lens of it being an environmental religion. So I went to a hippie school, a bit of an alternative sort of out there school.
I'm sensing a lot of hippie vibes on the channel, I'm not going to lie. I do sense it here and there. But yeah.
And so I got taught by this lovely Buddhist lady about Islam. And so we did this part of it about how it related to the environment. And so for me, being environmentally inclined, when I started to learn about how environmental Islam was, it was very clear. It gave me a clarity of understanding morality that I couldn't get from another faith.
Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah. Yeah, no, definitely God is great.
Allahu Akbar. It was incredible. But it wasn't until he travelled to Palestine did his love for Islam take a whole new level.
And Palestine was perhaps the most impactful country I've ever been to in my life.
Wow.
I went to Hebron. Khalil.
Yes.
Yeah. Man, that place shocked me to my core.
Wow.
I got to a vantage point. I could see over the wall. I could see the rubble of old Arab houses, town blocks that had been destroyed. And I could see like a city, 150,000 people, just next to like 500 settlers that were surrounded by militaries, 18-year-olds wielding machinery they should not be wielding.
Oh, wow.
And then I walk out onto the street, and these little 5-year-olds run up to me with no shoes on, offer me food straight away. First thing that happens, like these kids with no shoes, you know, they're obviously not got a lot of money. And the first thing they think to do to me, a Westerner walking out of an occupied area, first thing that happens is I get offered food. And yet that's got to say something. Yeah. So I think the kindness of the Palestinians, more than any other people I met, showed me truly what Islam was.
To young Sam, Islam is a way of life that fortifies his love for the environment and his creator, Allah.
The more and more I was here, the more and more I saw Islam as something holistic and complete, and to the point where even the time you woke up, it was the healthiest time. And the time you went to bed, it was the healthiest time. And then I went through Ramadan being only eating raw food. And I started to see a side of Islam that Islam is built for the person who stewards the land. Islam is built for the person who works with their hands. And I truly believe, because subhanAllah, the Prophet, peace be upon him, he worked with his hands and he knew these truths.
Yes.
For us to interact with and try to understand the vastness of creation and the profundity of creation, the absolute awe of creation, I think we would never truly understand or never even start to grasp how beautiful this creation is without interacting with it. If we live a disconnected life, a life disconnected to creation, we work a 9-to-5 job, we sit in an office, we think about mundane things that we must do in order to survive, in order to put food on the table. We're not thinking about, wow, how did these tomatoes grow from that tomato plant and end up on my plate? Like I would if I picked a tomato from a plant, you know? That's not something that's easily thought about when you're just sitting at a table, when you're tired from work. And the closer and closer you live to nature, the more and more easy it is to be in absolute awe of the life that you live, of the world that we live in, to be in absolute connection with God, which is what awe is. If we're in awe of creation, how can we not be in awe of our Creator? How can we not be in love with God?
It was a holistic way of life and understanding of religion, and it ran right across Zaytuna Farm.
One thing I noticed about Islam was it takes the complications out of life. If you take it as pure sunnah, you know, and try and live like the Prophet, right, as best you can, right, peace be upon him, you're taking the complications out of life. And when you read, and I've read the translation of the Quran, of course, it's like an instruction manual of how to live. So it sets out the Sharia law in such a peaceful way that's all done for you, right? So you just get on with life after that.
It's very peaceful feeling toward the Islam and toward the Prophet and toward the permaculture. I feel like this is the only way we could actually live. And if it's not living this way, I think it's part of the Sunnah is missing.
She's taught me a lot of wisdom about life in general, all of life. There's lots of wise words come out of my wife's mouth, I can tell you. She's my rock. I go back to the rock and ask. She's got the solid base.
It was a deeper understanding of religion that so many of us living in the cities were detached from.
If you do the right thing in this life, and you live a good life, and you get judged well, you end up in paradise, where there's a forest of food and fruit and clear water running underneath. Yeah, where are we right now?
In a garden.
We've got water running. You're sitting in a swale, right? That when it rains, it's going to have water in it, right?
A garden
and it's going from dam to dam.
Rivers flow.
We're surrounded by fruit, right? So it's in respect of from doing the right thing, that's what we're going to get.
The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would say that if one of you was to see the hour approach and within his hand was a seed
he should plant it. Even if he knows then and there that everything was going to end, he should still plant that seed. When you pass away, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
This farm hopefully will be a legacy, and that's why I made it an eco-farming community and registered as a cemetery on the farm. I particularly feel that the children need, there's so many innocent children that need this as a beacon of hope, that they can live a really good life and feel like they're a very meaningful part and beneficial part of life on earth and God's creation. That'd be the best legacy ever.
May Allah make Geoff's life and work a perpetual charity, a tree from which people benefit from, and one that never ends. Zaytuna Farm, until we meet again.